Hi everybody, and welcome to today's video lesson. I look forward to teaching you. In the last video, we talked about how to play and understand chord progressions using the diatonic triads and the key of C major, based on the C major scale. And we learned a very important progression, the famous 1-5-6-4 progression. In the key of C. And today we're going to learn how to play that progression in a smoother way, a way that sounds like this. Now what did I just do differently from this? You probably noticed that I played the chords much closer to each other in the right hand. And how did I do this? Well, I'm glad you asked. Let me show you. Okay, so the first concept we need to talk about today in order to do this is chord inversions or triad inversions. What is an inversion? Well, in math, an inversion is where you take a set of numbers and you flip them. So taking a chord and inverting it is kind of the same concept. You're respelling a chord, but you're not changing the notes in the chord, you're just changing the order of the notes. So let's invert the C chord. So you would invert it by taking the bottom note of the chord and putting it up here. And you leave the other two notes, E and G, right where they are. So you go from C, E, G to E, G, C. Did I change the notes in the C chord? No, I did not. But I changed the order, because now you have E on the bottom, the G in the middle, and the C on top. And now you can invert the chord a second time by putting that bottom note here, E, up one octave. You're flipping it up and playing it on top, and you're playing your G and your C in the middle underneath. So let's recap that. This is a C triad in root position, which is the original position of the chord. This is a C triad in first inversion, where you've respelled it with the C on top. And this is a triad, C triad, in second inversion, where you respelled it with the E on top. And then if you invert it one more time, you just get back to the root position. So that's how you invert a chord. And so what we're going to do when we play our 1-5-6-4 progression is we're going to find the absolute closest inversion for each chord in the progression so that we don't jump around so much like this. Instead, we're going to play the closest inversion of each chord. So let's start with the C. Obviously, I started on the root position C chord. Okay? So our next task is to find the closest inversion of the G major chord, which is the 5 chord. That's this, G, B, D. So if we know the notes are G, B, D, we have to ask, do we have, important question number 1, do we have any notes in common between the C chord and our next chord, the G chord? Do we? Yes, we do. We have one note in common. So the G chord, 5 chord, has G, B, D, right? And the 1 chord has C, E, G. So we have G in common between the two chords. So what we're going to do is we're going to keep the G right where it is. We're going to keep that common note the same. And we're going to move the other fingers around to find the missing notes. And what are the missing notes? You guessed it, B and D. So we're going to shift our fingers down to find B and D, and we have our G on top. So we played a G chord here, and it's actually in the first inversion. Because if you play it in root position, it's here. If you play it in first inversion, you're flipping that G up to the top, like that. So first inversion G chord is where we go next. And now, our next chord is the 6th chord in the key of C, which is A minor. Now, what are the notes in the A minor chord? A, C, and E. Okay, do we have any common notes between the A minor chord and the G chord? No, we do not. So, in this case, we have to find the closest inversion by searching for it. So let's try going down here. That's pretty close, isn't it? ACE, you don't have to do a lot of moving, but here's an even better solution. You go up here. So what that does is it finds your ACE chord, A minor chord, in first inversion, CEA. So you go from here on your G chord and you keep the same exact hand position and you just shift up one set of notes to CEA. So I have my 6th chord in first inversion, and then from here you say, are there any common notes between A minor triad and our 4 chord, which is the F triad? So A minor triad has, right, these 3 notes, C, E, and A. And now what about our F chord? That has our 4 chord, that has F, A, and C in it, right? So how many common notes are there? You guessed it, 2 common notes. So you have A and C in common, but you don't have F in common, all right? So let's go back to our A minor triad in first inversion. What notes do we have in common? We have the C and the A. In the middle, that's the wrong note for the F triad, so we're going to shift it up to our missing note, which is F. So all you do is change from here to here, right? 1 note change and you have yourself an F chord. So let's review that. We have the C chord in root position. We have our G chord in the first inversion. We have our A minor chord in the first inversion. And we have our F chord, and the F chord is actually in the second inversion, because if we start down here, we invert the chord up 1 and we invert it up again to get the second inversion. So let's put the bass notes with that and see how it sounds. Now, once you get the hang of that, it's a lot smoother to play because the notes are a lot closer together, and it sounds a lot better because you aren't jumping around so much. Alright, now in the bass, I'm going to take it down here and play the bass notes in a lower octave because I like the sound of that. Makes it sound more full. And like I said in the last video, you can also do this. You can put the bass note in octaves. So I'm playing the root of each chord, but in octaves to make it sound more full. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. There'll be many more lessons to come, but this shows you how to play chord progressions smoothly and with less effort and with a lot more efficiency than jumping around and playing the root position of each chord. So I look forward to seeing you in the next video, and I hope you guys have a great day. Please tune in for the next video lesson on how to play chord progressions in a pop style. I think you'll really enjoy that lesson. Bye for now.